Hello, welcome back to Glass Reviews,
Hey!
and for another episode of Unrestrained.
Woo!
So another Star Wars thing, because I know how much you love Star Wars. Sarcasm here, but I found this other video that I wanted to I wanted to show Robert and Thomas when I was over there, but didn't have the time, so thought I'd show you. This is some guy decided to do a ranking of every villain in Star Wars from worst to best, and in the thumbnail it had like Cad Bane as cool and Darth Vader as lame. So now I want to hear his takes on that.
Okay.
So I'm pretty sure it's just clickbait, but if it's not, I might lose it. So this will be interesting to see.
I found the 15 coolest villains in all of Star Wars, and in this video, I'm going to rank them from absolute worst to absolute best. Now, be warned, this list contains more than just Sith. I'm including bounty hunters, commanders, and even some cyborgs in the mix. But without further ado, let's get into it. We're gonna kick off the list at number 15 with General Hux. Now, I will admit, in The Force Awakens, General Hux was like, at least a cooler character, you know? The movie actually made him into a somewhat commanding figure, and he did have that sick scene where he was yelling at those stormtroopers and giving that speech as Starkiller Base blew up all those planets. That was a great scene. And so when I watched that, I was like, alright, maybe next movie he'll be as good or better. I mean, why wouldn't I assume that he would be as cool and as intimidating in the next movie as he was in this one? Ah, come on, man. Well, maybe he'll get better in the next movie. Oh, come on! How is this guy a spy? He literally blew up like 8 planets. He probably killed trillions of people. Can you imagine for a second if 1 year before World War II came to an end, German Chancellor Adolf Hitler came to the Allies and asked if they wanted to get some friendship bracelets? Oh, Winston Churchill and Franklin Delano Roosevelt would take that opportunity so quickly, it's not even funny. I mean, personally, I would trust the most evil man on the planet if he asked if we could be friends again. What could possibly go wrong? Anyway, what I am saying is that Hux did have potential, but as a result of making him the biggest joke in the sequels, well, I guess the second biggest joke, because you can't really beat Finn when it comes to that, he is ranked at number 15 on my list. Up next at number 14 is none other than the Grand Inquisitor himself. I just know that Dave Filoni thought this guy was going to be so cool when he made him, and I think that diehard Rebels fans do really like him, but to me, the Grand Inquisitor always felt like such a generic sidekick, you know? It's like in a high school drama movie, where the main bully, i.e. Darth Vader, has a big muscly goon who follows him around and does his dirty work, i.e. the Grand Inquisitor, but when the main character of the movie learns, like, I don't know, how to get a life, or probably just kung fu, the goon gets absolutely smacked by the main character. Honestly, to me, that kind of feels like the plot of Rebels, at least in the first couple of seasons. And on top of that, I also despise the Grand Inquisitor's lightsaber. What makes a double-bladed lightsaber cool in the first place is when the user can actually use it well.
So while this is loading back, I got a few disagreements. I don't know if I'd rank General Hux number 15 because he's too far down the list.
Yeah, he's scraping bottom of the barrel there, in my opinion.
I know. I'm wondering if he's just doing it from the movies, but I thought at first he was doing it just from the movies, but now he's got the Grand Inquisitor in there, so he's obviously doing it from the shows as well. And I think there's way cooler characters from the shows. From the movies combined. And I don't even think General Hux needs to be put on number 15. So
I wouldn't even show he's probably gonna put in Kylo Ren.
I would have thought, if anything, he would have maybe made the 5th. He probably will put in Kylo Ren as one of those. I don't know.
I don't know.
This could go any other way.
It's actually impressive when you can spin it in cool ways by yourself without a big machine in the hill making it do it for you. And when you tap a button to make the lightsaber spin by itself while you stand there with your arm out grinning like a 4th grader who just discovered what Nutella was for the first time, it's really not impressive whatsoever and you look like a dork. So because of that, the Grand Inquisitor is number 14 on my list. Alright, at number 13 we have Supreme Leader Snoke. Snoke is actually wildly similar to General Hux in the sense that he was also cool and interesting in The Force Awakens. But then Rian Johnson came along and subverted all of our expectations because everyone knows that's why The Last Jedi was such a great Star Wars movie, you know? I mean, if I'm remembering correctly, it was the most popular Star Wars movie of all time, and the fans absolutely loved it. But the difference between Hux and Snoke was that Snoke was actually cool for the beginning of The Last Jedi. We walk into that throne room for the first time, and Snoke's in there hitting people with Force lightning, and then Rey walks in, and I gotta say, when Rey was getting clowned on by Snoke, I was the 4th grader who just discovered Nutella, because I was grinning from ear to ear in that theater. Honestly, if Snoke had just kept that up for, I don't know, the rest of the sequel trilogy and been the main villain, then maybe he would have actually been higher on this list. But
This guy does not like Ray. It shows. This guy does not like Ray. And it shows.
Who does?
I don't know. There's some crazy people out there. But I don't know. Once again, I don't know if I'd put Snoke at number 13.
You would be on my list, but it would be like probably 14 or 15.
I think I'd put Hux before. Well, actually, no, they did ruin Hux. I don't know if I'd put him. I think I put him and Hux at about the same level, but I don't think he'd be up at 15. I don't think he'd be in the top 15 of villains.
I agree with that.
You know, it's like I often say, there's nothing quite like getting a lightsaber through the old breadbasket to make someone look like an absolute chump. After this scene, it was really hard for me to look at Snoke and see anything other than an absolute fool for letting a lightsaber get spun 90 degrees right in front of him and then ignite through his body. He was definitely not a very cool villain, especially compared to some of the other big baddies coming up in this video. And because this list does go from worst villain in Star Wars to best villain in Star Wars, I promise that you will absolutely want to stick around to see who is the all-time best. So stay tuned for that. Alright, time to move on. Next up on the list at number 12 is the one, the only Gustavo Fring, proud owner of the Los Pollos Hermanos chicken restaurant. And man, those guys got the best fried chicken in all of New Mexico, believe me. Gustavo Fring is a kind-hearted man and a dedicated member of his community who has some absolutely cutting-edge ideas. And let me tell you, when I say this guy does not skip chest day, he does not skip chest day. Oh, the amount of money I would give just to feel those. Well, that's neither here nor there. But obviously I'm talking about the Mandalorian's greatest foe, Moff Gideon. Like the entire Mandalorian show, Moff Gideon has slowly gotten worse and worse with each passing season. Because in season 1, I'll be honest, he was a pretty good villain. But then in season 2, he got thrown into...
I will say with that bit, he tried. I'm not gonna... He tried with the joke. He tried with the joke. I will say it. He at least tried. Well, felt more like a crash and burn, but you know.
That's like a 9/11 joke right there. I don't like that one.
It was bad.
To the ending because the writers obviously forgot that they needed a grand finale for the season. And then in season 3, he got brought back again, and now he's trying to clone himself so that he has the Force, which I gotta admit is a really weird plot point. I mean, you've got to be, what, 70? You're not exactly a spring chicken anymore, and your plan is to make organic copies of yourself, try to stuff the Force into them like a fat guy stuffing soggy fries down his swollen throat, pray desperately that you can find some makeshift way to teach these clones how to use the Force that they now have. And that's assuming that your plan to put the Force inside of them in the first place actually worked, and only if all of that goes according to plan, then you just gotta hope desperately that they'll submit to your authority, because after all, you taught them how to use the Force, so they're probably more powerful than you. Yeah, seems like an absolutely brilliant plan to me, personally. Anyway, as much as I do love Moff Gideon's incredibly realistic Halloween costumes, I just don't think that he's that interesting as a villain, and it feels like whenever the show wants you to feel the stakes a little more, they just give him an upgrade. He already starts off with a battalion of stormtroopers. Well, not enough. Alright, let's give him the Darksaber. Gonna have to do better than that. Okay, what about a troop of killer death robots? No, scratch that. An army of loyal Beskar armored soldiers. Yeah, not quite there yet, buddy. Fine. Literal Mandalorian Beskar armor with these sick-looking horns on top. I mean, what else can I even say anymore?
I mean, he makes fair points on that.
Regardless, I think the number 12 spot is a good place for Gustavo to sit at. Number 11 is the Clone Wars legend himself, Savage Opress. Now look, I actually do like Savage quite a bit. Yes! The problem with him is that he's literally discount Darth Maul. That's it. And at least Maul got his skill from years of training, whereas Savage was a scrawny runt who bulked for like 4 seconds, and then spent like 2 more minutes learning how to use the Force. And all of a sudden, he's this crazy powerful maniac that no one in the galaxy can stop. And then for the rest of the show, he proceeds to have no more character development whatsoever. So while he is cooler than the first 4 characters on this list, he just can't compare to the 10 that are coming up. At number 10, we have Kylo Ren. Now, in a YouTube short of mine,
I would actually agree with that placement with Savage Opress, because he didn't get a whole bunch of character development, and yeah, there's problems I have with Savage.
Yeah,
you know,
it stinks because he was meant to be a really, really good like character, and I thought they were gonna build him into be this next supervillain.
Yeah.
But then they kill him off. It's like,
they kind of just,
okay.
He just hung around. He really didn't do a whole bunch of stuff. They didn't develop his character.
Yeah. He's kind of like he was kind of like, I think he was kind of like the right-hand man.
Yeah.
But no, Savage Opress would have 100% be in my top 15.
I would think so, but I think he'd be at the lower end.
He would be bottom of the barrel, but no, he would definitely be in it.
Yeah.
10, we have Kylo Ren. Now, in a YouTube short of mine, I accidentally called him a Sith, and I got absolutely roasted in the comments because apparently he's not a Sith. So that's that. Anyway, Kylo Ren is by far the lamest Sith Lord in Star Wars. Like a lot of characters on this list, he was kind of cool in The Force Awakens, and I gotta say, his lightsaber is absolutely dope. But then he started taking off his helmet and whining and screaming and getting destroyed in every single fight he got into, and I just completely lost interest in the guy. Besides, maybe he shouldn't even be on this list in the first place, because canonically, he did die a good guy, so I'm not really sure how that works. Then again, to quote Gandalf, I'd be a fool of a took if I didn't put Darth Vader on this list, and he's technically a good guy now too. So for now, Kylo Ren can live at the number 10 spot. Up next at number 9 is Jango Fett. Jango Fett is a pretty cool guy, and I actually think he's a good character, but the problem is that we only see him for a couple of minutes. And while he does have one good fight with Obi-Wan and then an epic space battle, he dies pretty quick after that. The best part about Jango is definitely his gadgets and gizmos, and I gotta admit, from a technology standpoint, he's by far the best in the biz. He's got a jetpack, a grappling wire, a surface-to-air missile on his back, razor blades on his gauntlets, a flamethrower, and some pretty dope weapons on Slave 1. And those are the things that we know about. The reason I've ranked him about the middle of the list is because if you think about it, that's probably where he belongs. He's cool enough to not be at the bottom, but there are way better villains who definitely deserve to be above him. And if you're some Jango Fett stan who doesn't like that, then you can go, I don't know, cry somewhere. Number 8 is Boba Fett, and I gotta say, the only reason that he's not ranked worse on my list is because his appearances in Clone Wars and The Mandalorian save him. I did not enjoy the Book of Boba Fett whatsoever. I thought it made him a wishy-washy, indecisive pushover and completely changed his character for no real reason whatsoever. And even though he was a literal child in the Clone Wars, he's still somehow cooler there than he was in his own TV show. And in The Mandalorian, he was the Boba Fett that everyone wanted to see, with ruthless fighting, vicious techniques, and a complete domination of any stormtrooper that got in his way. If the Book of Boba Fett had never existed, I would have ranked him way closer to the number 1 spot, because frankly, I just thought that the show was a complete betrayal of the character that everyone already liked, and it just showed that Disney has no grasp on what the audience wants to see or any understanding of the characters that they're messing with. Alrighty, this is where ranking these villains gets mighty tricky, because from now on, all of these villains are actually really cool. At number 7, we have none other than the hairless harpy herself, Asajj Ventress. Ventress is pretty interesting because she starts off as just a hardcore bad guy, and then over the course of the Clone Wars show, slowly starts to turn, I don't know, better? She was never morally perfect, but she got better. I will say, I'm a huge fan of her curved hilt lightsabers, so that's just an all-around W for me, and I like how over time, she became more of a complex character, and starts to get her own character development. However, one thing that I would recommend is that if she can physically grow hair, she really should, because the whole 3rd stage cancer patient undergoing intense chemotherapy look is really not something to strive for. And if you ever find anyone who would call Ventress, I don't know, easy on the eyes, then they're freaking lying, and you gotta call them out on that. Anyway, is there a... Wait, do you hear that noise? That's right, at number 6, we have none other than General Grievous. Grievous is really cool, because there's like no complexity to this guy, which usually is a bad thing in a character, I will admit, but it works for him, because now, he's nothing but an unrestrained beast with nothing holding him back. Let me put it this way, when a Clone Wars episode came on and the villain for the episode was going to be Grievous, you didn't really care about the plot that much. You were just excited because you knew darn well that at the end of the episode there was going to be a sick lightsaber duel. And when this guy's arm split in half, whoo boy, you knew you were in for a treat.
I will say I agree with him to some extent about Grievous. The only problem I see is that his character doesn't seem as threatening as it's implied to be in episode 3. So.
Ooh boy, you knew you were in for a treat. Although, I just gotta say it, I don't care how good you are with a lightsaber, if you have a single blade and you're going against some guy with 4 blades, it would not be that hard for him to kill you like that. I mean, literally, if you have 4 blades, you swing 2 of your lightsabers horizontally from opposite sides of him at the same time, and if they have 1 lightsaber, they can't block 2 coming different ways, so he gets split 5 ways from Sunday. But you know what? That's besides the point. At number 5, we have the legendary Cad Bane, who needs no introduction. Cad Bane is by far one of the best things to come out of the Clone Wars, and I would probably say that at this point in time, he is my favorite bounty hunter in all of Star Wars. Maybe if someone's TV show wasn't absolute garbage, it wouldn't be this way, but you know what? It is what it is. This guy's got that sick hat, those dual blasters, the coolest voice in the galaxy. I mean, just take a listen.
Hello there, little lady.
See what I mean? And on top of everything, he's actually a really crafty guy. He's like the opposite of Grievous, in the sense that when he's going to be in an episode, I can't wait to see his plan. Like that one time where he stole a clone trooper's armor and then snuck aboard a Republic Venator and then escaped off the Venator. Oh, pure gold. I was actually so mad when he got killed off in Book of Boba Fett. And on top of that, they didn't even make him look good in live action. Absolutely disgraceful. Coming in at number 4, we have Darth Maul. Darth Maul was already pretty cool when he appeared in Phantom Menace, what with his double-bladed lightsaber and crazy moves, but then Dave Filoni made the genius decision to throw him into Clone Wars, and that really brought him to the next level. The whole arc where Maul came back with his sick robot legs and became the literal king of Mandalore was awesome, and that season 7 finale with him versus Ahsoka was more legendary than me in the bathroom after a bad night at the all-you-can-eat buffet. Man, those fried shrimp really screwed me over. But yeah, not much more that I can say. He's like 3 times cooler than Savage Opress, and it's not even close. Getting into the top 3 now, you probably should have a pretty good idea in that old noggin of yours of who's coming up next. So it shouldn't be too much of a shock to you that at number 3, I put my boy Darth Sidious. This guy is by far the smartest character in Star Wars by every metric, and I would argue that he's maybe the most powerful villain too. Sidious has got no shortage of skills, and he's kind of a baller at literally everything, from force lightning to lightsaber fighting and overall skill with the force. Now, be warned, this coming up is a very hot take, and I think I'm probably one of the only people I know who thought this, but I did not like it whatsoever when they brought him back in The Rise of Skywalker. I know, surround my house with pitchforks and torches if you must, but I did not think that he was very cool in that movie, and honestly, in his duel versus Rey,
I think he's joking. I think most people didn't like that he brought him back.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, I think I'd agree with this placing and probably the Maul placing. Not so much the Cad Bane placing, but I get why he's placing Cad Bane there, and I really don't like the Asajj Ventress placing. I don't think I'd put Asajj Ventress there, but I get why he did.
Yeah.
So like now it's getting to the point where I can understand why he placed people where he placed them, but I would disagree where he placed them. You know what I mean? Now it's kind of getting into that territory.
I could not have cared less who won, but that does not change the fact that for the rest of Star Wars, this guy was an absolute Sigma, and the number 3 spot is perfect for him. Alright, and now for number 2, I've been looking forward to this. It's none other than Darth Tyrannus, better known as Count Dooku. Honestly, I seriously contemplated putting Dooku at the number 1 spot because if you've been around my channel before, you know that I am a huge Dooku fan. One of the many things that makes this guy so cool to me is that in the actual movies, Count Dooku isn't intrinsically a bad guy. He's just a man who sees the corruption in the Republic and the Jedi Order and thinks that the Separatists should have the right to break off and do their own thing. Then the Clone Wars rolled around and Dave Filoni did need a big bad guy, so he made Dooku like a maniacal sociopath, but it was still cool. Another thing that makes Dooku so epic is just how good he is with a lightsaber. I actually personally just think that his lightsaber is super cool on its own because, like I said earlier, your boy's a sucker for a nice curved hilt. But on top of that, he's so cool to watch in a duel because he's just insanely smooth and classy and suave and debonair. The James Bond of Star Wars, some have called him. Not me. Some. Not me. But some. On top of everything, he's so powerful with the Force, and when someone makes him mad, he just turns around very slowly and calmly hits them with a deadly blast of Force lightning. Oh man, what an absolute legend. I just love everything about this guy, and thank goodness the Clone Wars TV show centered around him, because in my opinion, he was criminally underused in the prequels movies. Alright, before I get to number 1, I just want to give some honorable mentions really quick. Pong Krell is definitely up there. I mean, what an absolute psychopath. I'm not sure he counts as a villain because he is loyal to whoever gives him the best deal, and I guess that's every bounty hunter, but regardless, Hondo Ohnaka is just an all-around great character, and he's literally Jack Sparrow, so I love that guy. Finally, Pre Vizsla was a cool character when he was alive, and that duel between him and Maul was just epic. Okay, at the number 1 spot, if you didn't see this coming, you're a complete idiot, or you just don't like Star Wars, because everyone knows that the coolest villain in all of Star Wars is, cue the music, Darth Vader. That's right, this Dark Lord of the Sith is definitely number 1, and there's a reason that every single human on planet Earth knows who he is. Along with being one of the most complex characters in all of cinema, his whole story from slave boy to Jedi to husband to cyborg to Sith is truly a beautiful arc. And on a more superficial level, that guy can swing a lightsaber. Holy cow, that scene from Rogue One was insane. Honestly, I think one of the best ideas for a Star Wars TV show would be tales of Vader's adventures around the galaxy. I mean, how cool would that be? You could take any of the dozens of comics about him and animate them or turn them into live action, and who wouldn't want to hear, "Oh, I'm surrounded by his fear and dead men," in an actual TV show? I mean, I'm getting chills just thinking about that. But speaking of Star Wars TV shows, there are already a lot of good ones out there and a lot of
Yeah, that seems to be his list. Definitely not as outlandish
Was that like
as I thought it was going to be.
Was it like more like, was it out of power or was it just in general?
It's basically, I think it was just him subjectively saying what he thinks is the best, worst to best. Like what he thinks. Like not like saying like by power or skill or anything, because if that was the case, I would think a lot of those characters wouldn't be up where he put them. But I'm thinking he's basing it on like what he liked as far as like character development, coolness factor, obviously, and screen presence. I don't think I disagree with a whole bunch of what he said, but I don't.
A few of them I do.
There's definitely stuff I would disagree with, like especially more towards the worst end part. But for like placement more towards the upper half, I can't really say I disagree with maybe like exceptions like Asajj Ventress, maybe, and like General Grievous, especially if they're going to use the 2008 Clone Wars General Grievous. Don't disagree with that a whole bunch.
Decent tier list, I would say too.
Yeah, not horrible. Just
no,
not,
no, that
not
wasn't
the greatest,
bad at all.
but not horrible. So
no.
5 likes on this video, and we'll do a Star Wars villain tier list. We'll make our own tier list of the top 15 of our top 15 villains of Star Wars.
20 likes, we'll do it with hot wings.
You just want to eat hot wings. You're just hungry.
Yeah, I'm fat. 30 likes and we'll get Pace and eat some hot wings.
Thank you guys for watching this episode of Galactic Reviews. Don't forget to hit that like and subscribe button, and we'll see you next time on Galactic Reviews.
Bye!